A miracle witnessed by 70,000. The mystery of Fatima. Let us take you back to one of the most extraordinary moments in modern religious history. A miracle witnessed by 70,000 people at the same time. It all began on May 13, 1917, in the small town of Fatima, Portugal. A 10-year-old shepherd girl named Lucia Santos, along with her cousins, Jacinta Marto and Francisco Marto, were tending sheep in a quiet valley. Suddenly, the flock stopped moving, as if frozen by an unseen force. The children looked up, and there she was. A radiant woman appeared, suspended in midair. She wore a glowing white robe that shimmered brighter than the sun. In her hands was a rosary, and she stood with palms joined in prayer. The children were speechless. This stunning figure spoke gently, telling them to return to the same spot on the 13th of every month until October, and to pray the rosary daily in honor of the Virgin Mary, for the sake of peace in the world and in their own lives. The children believed this woman was none other than the Virgin Mary herself. At the time, the world was deep in the chaos of World War I, a brutal conflict pitting the Central Powers Germany, Austria-Hungary, and the Ottoman Empire against the Allied forces including France, Britain, Russia, and Italy. Though Portugal had initially tried to remain neutral, the economic pressure and political tension eventually pulled them into the war on the side of the Allies. For the three young shepherds, the horrors of war were close to home. Their relatives and neighbors, many of them young Portuguese men, were fighting and dying on the front lines. Hoping to bring hope, the children shared their story with the adults around them. But no one believed them. Not even their parents. They were accused of making it all up, scolded, and even beaten. Yet the children stood firm. They hadn't lied, and they weren't imagining things. A month later, on June 13th, a small crowd followed them to the valley. The Virgin Mary appeared again, though only the children could see her. The adults noticed something strange. They could see Lucia's lips moving, but heard nothing. A quiet wonder fell over the crowd, and some began to believe. With each passing month, the crowd grew larger. By August, thousands were showing up. But the growing movement made the authorities nervous. On August 13th, Artur Santos, the local provincial administrator, fearing political unrest, took drastic action. He detained the children before they could reach the valley. In a shocking act, he even boiled a cauldron of oil, threatening to throw the children in if they didn't reveal the secrets the Virgin had shared. One by one, he interrogated them. But not one child betrayed the promise they had made. While they were imprisoned, 20,000 people gathered in the valley, waiting in vain. They saw only flashes of light and clouds descending upon a tree. And then came the final apparition, the most unforgettable of them all. October 13th, 1917. 70,000 people had gathered in the valley. Locals, pilgrims, reporters, and even skeptical journalists. They came because the children had promised that on this day, the Virgin Mary would perform a miracle for all to see. And something extraordinary happened. The skies were heavy with rain. The crowd was soaked, standing in mud. But then, the clouds broke. The rain stopped. Suddenly, the sun appeared. But it was no ordinary sun. It spun wildly in the sky, radiating beams of colored light, red, yellow, blue, and violet. Then it began to plunge toward the earth, zigzagging in an S-shaped pattern, as if it would crash into the crowd. People screamed. Some wept. Others dropped to their knees, praying. Then, as suddenly as it had begun, the sun shot back into the sky and returned to its place. Even stranger? The rain-soaked crowd found their clothes suddenly dry. This event would be known as the miracle of the sun. The miracle had too many witnesses to ignore. Even O, Portugal's most influential newspaper, and known for its anti-religious stance, reported the story. Journalist Avelino de Almeida wrote, "The crowd stood bareheaded, searching the heavens. The sun began to tremble and dance with sudden movements contrary to cosmic laws, as if it were dancing. Dr. Domingos Pinto Coelho, an ophthalmologist writing for Ordem, observed. The sun was surrounded by crimson flames, then yellow and deep purple. It seemed to be in swift rotation, then suddenly appeared to fall from the sky. And O Dia, a Rio de Janeiro newspaper reported. The silver sun, whirling within the broken clouds, transformed light into beautiful blue hues, as though through stained glass windows of a cathedral. People cried out, heads bare, arms raised in awe. Time itself seemed to stop. It was vivid beyond words. Even more astounding, the phenomenon was seen up to 40 kilometers away. Skeptics argued it was an atmospheric illusion. But if that were true, how did uneducated shepherd children know the exact day and time it would happen? Yet even this astonishing miracle wasn't the most mysterious part of the Fatima events. The Three Secrets of Fatima. During her appearances, the Virgin Mary revealed 3 secrets to the children, messages about the future. 2 were later written down by Lucia after she became a nun. The first secret. A really scary picture of hell? The kids saw a lake of fire where demons and people who didn't go to heaven were suffering in pain. The Virgin comforted them, assuring that they would go to heaven. She said Lucia would live longer, but Jacinta and Francisco would soon join her in heaven. And indeed, both children died during the Spanish flu epidemic of 1919. Only Lucia survived. The second secret. A prophecy of World War II. The Virgin said the First World War would end. But unless people stopped defending God, an even worse war would erupt during the reign of Pope Pius XI. She said a mysterious light in the sky would signal it. And it happened. In 1939, shortly before World War II broke out, a rare and brilliant aurora borealis lit up the skies across northern Europe, even reported by the New York Times. Many believe it was the sign the Virgin foretold. The Third Secret. This was the most guarded and controversial. The Virgin instructed that it must be revealed no later than 1960. But when Lucia fell ill in 1943, the Bishop of Leiria urged her to write it down to ensure it wouldn't be lost. She finally did so in June 1944, sealed it, and sent it to the Vatican in 1957. Then came 1960. The world waited for the secret to be revealed, but the Vatican refused. People were really upset because of the secrecy, and one guy even hijacked a plane. On May 2, 1981, an Australian guy named Lawrence James Downey took control of an Aer Lingus flight from Dublin to London. He wanted the Vatican to reveal the third secret. The plane landed in France, and after 8 hours, he was arrested. He got 5 years in prison for it. At last, on May 13, 2000, 83 years after the first apparition, the Vatican released the third secret. Imagine a scene where a bishop in white, thought to be the Pope, is climbing a really steep mountain through a city that's been destroyed. He's in pain and praying over dead bodies. When he reaches the top, he kneels in front of a big wooden cross. Then soldiers shoot and kill him and others with arrows. Angels collect their blood in special containers and use it to help the souls get to God. The Vatican interpreted this as the 1981 assassination attempt on Pope John Paul II. But many felt this interpretation was too narrow, that the secret must have broader, global implications. If the message were so simple, why keep it hidden for so long? In 2010, Pope Benedict XVI hinted at deeper meaning, saying the Virgin of Fatima also spoke of the suffering of the Church, a church that would endure pain until the end of the world. But long before the Vatican's disclosure, some believe the mystery had already been unlocked. A prophetic glimpse. In 1958, America's most famous 20th century psychic, Jeane Dixon, had a vision while praying in St. Matthew's Cathedral. She later described this experience in her biography, A Gift of Prophecy by Ruth Montgomery. While holding a crystal ball and praying, Jeane suddenly, I was holding the crystal ball in St. Matthew's Cathedral, Jeane Dixon recounted, when suddenly, the air around me felt charged, as if it had become electric. Then, before my eyes, the sphere clouded over and filled with a radiant light. In that light, Jeane saw a breathtaking vision, not of angels or saints, but of an extraordinary woman, clothed in white, surrounded by a soft, pulsating glow. The same luminous presence described by the 3 shepherd children in Fatima decades earlier. The woman raised her hand, not in threat, but in a gesture of divine urgency. Then, a series of images came rushing into Jeane's mind. She saw a big division in the church, with bishops and cardinals arguing and fighting each other. She saw a lot of confusion and darkness spreading, even in places that were once full of faith. She saw leaders, both religious and political, giving in to pride, temptation, and violence. Then the scene shifted. He saw a city that was totally destroyed. A strong country that was falling apart because of problems inside and natural disasters. In the middle of all the destruction, there was one person in white who was hurt, crying and praying. People around him were kneeling down, some begging for mercy, others standing firm in defiance. The vision ended with the sky opening up again, and the lady in white pointing down. Jeane thought the message was clear. The world is on a thin line between good and bad. The message from Fatima, which many people ignored, is still important, and it's not over yet. Jeane Dixon believed this experience was a divine confirmation, that the secrets of Fatima went far beyond the Church's official narrative. That the Third Secret held not just a vision of martyrdom, but a prophetic warning for all of humanity. This vision made people wonder, has the Vatican told us everything? Or are they hiding the most shocking parts on purpose? Maybe because they're scared or want to be in control. Lots of people, including experts and even some inside the Vatican, have been questioning this for years. In 2010, Pope Benedict XVI made a rare and cryptic statement during a visit to Fatima. He said, "The greatest persecution of the Church does not come from external enemies, but arises from sin within the Church." To some, it was a clear admission. The true Third Secret was about the Church's internal crisis, and it was already unfolding. Pope Francis made 2 children who used to be shepherd saints at a big ceremony in Fatima, Portugal. Hundreds of thousands of people were there to celebrate. Jacinta and Francisco Marto were made saints because of the miracles they're believed to have done. Pope Francis thinks these messages are really important because they're supposed to help people. The Pope even sent a special message to the people of Portugal, saying he wants to feel close to them and be united with them. Rest in peace, Pope Francis.
Subscribe and hit the notification bell so you don't miss what's coming next. Share it, because some stories are meant to be discovered together. And stay curious. I'll see you in the next chapter.